I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Parks and Recreation Commission for the City of Vacaville, November 4th, 2020. Good evening, Vacaville. We appreciate everyone who is participating in tonight's Park and Recreation teleconference meeting. This meeting will be conducted pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N29-20. Please bear with us as we attempt to use remote tools. Instructions to call into the meeting or participate from a computer are provided on the agenda on the city's website at www.cityofvacaville.com. Callers who wish to comment can press *9 to get into the speaking queue. Computer users can click the raise hand button within the Zoom controls to request to speak. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Commissioner Leonard? Here. Commissioner Lujan? Here. Commissioner Thompson?
Yes, present.
Commissioner Vasquez?
Here.
Commissioner Berumen?
Here.
Vice Chair Rucker?
Here.
Chair McMahon?
Here. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 2, administration of the oath of office for new commissioner, City Clerk Michelle Thornbrew.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Welcome, Chairman Bruman. I am now going to administer the oath of office for you. Please repeat after me. I, Ralph Bruman,
I, Ralph Berumen,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic.
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
in which I am about to enter.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much for that. Congratulations, Commissioner Bruman. We're happy to have you on board and a part of this commission. Sir, at this time, we'd like for you to take a few minutes and introduce yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Ralph Berumen. Been in Vacaville for over 60 plus years. My father, mom, and dad moved to Vacaville back in the 50s. I've been married I got a beautiful wife, Colleen, for 41 years. 2 daughters, which have graduated and moved on. Graduated from Vaca High, and now I have 2 grandkids, one that graduated in the COVID, and one is a freshman. I'm very involved in downtown. I'm on the executive board of the DVBID, the Downtown Vacaville Business Improvement District. And I'm also on the board of directors with the Chamber of Commerce. And the one that's really to my heart, I run Fiesta Days, which we give to the whole community. But 10,000 people come to that 5-day event that I hold. And that's very dearly to my heart. And been around Vacaville before the stoplights came up. So, like I said, I've been around a long time and I've seen many changes.
Thank you very much for that, Commissioner Bruman. We appreciate everything you do for the community of Vacaville, and you're going to be an asset to this commission, and we appreciate you very much. Item agenda number 3, Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Bruman, we would love for you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
Excellent. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for that. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Are there any corrections or changes to the agenda this evening? Seeing none, I will take a motion to accept the agenda.
This is Commissioner Leonard. I move to approve the agenda.
And a second.
Vice Chair Rucker, I will second.
We have Leonard and Rucker. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Leonard,
Aye.
Commissioner Lujan,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Vasquez,
Yes.
Commissioner Berumen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Rucker,
Yes.
and Chair McMahon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 5, approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections or changes for the minutes of the meeting of October 7th, 2020? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
This is Commissioner Vasquez, moved.
And a second, please.
This is Commissioner Thompson, I second.
Okay, we have Vasquez and Thompson. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Leonard,
Aye.
Commissioner Lujan,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Vasquez,
Yes.
Commissioner Berumen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Rucker,
Aye.
Chair McMahon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Agenda item 6. Is there any correspondence this evening? Seeing none. And no, there is no correspondence. Number 7 is presentations this evening. We have aquatics and special interest programs recreation coordinator, Morgan Kruger.
Yes, hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Hi, Morgan. This is Chair McMahon. Can you maybe speak up just a bit, ma'am?
Oh, yep, can you hear me now?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay. So we will start off with our presentation of the special interest programs. As introduced, I am the recreation coordinator that oversees our special interest programming. So one class that we are currently running at the moment and was the first to resume during COVID-19 was Pet Pro Hero. In this class, our instructor teaches participants how to recognize emergencies and provide care for their pups, including first aid and CPR skills. This class is now modified to run virtually via Zoom the last Saturday of each month. Next slide. So we're also currently holding in-person CPR, first aid, and basic life support classes. These classes are each held once a month at the Duke Gymnasium, where participants can socially distance, wear masks, and learn these life-saving skills. Our typical participants range anywhere from teens looking to learn a new skill to professionals requiring the certification for their position. Next slide. So in addition to those two classes, I usually have an update on some of our longer standing special interest classes. Well, most of these classes listed on the screen did have a chance to run in the early months of 2020. The instructors have not yet decided to bring them back post-COVID. Next slide. But along with that, we have had a lot of success in bringing on 3 new virtual classes. Next slide. So Virtual American Sign Language, one of our first new virtual classes to come on, began in October with classes held Wednesday evenings via Zoom. The instructor is actually a child of a deaf adult who is currently offering 2 levels, one for beginners and one for those with some ASL experience. In the coming months, he also plans on adding a level 3. Next slide. Virtual Dishing with David is another new virtual class that rolled out in October. This is a workshop style class where kids and their families can join in, create specialty dishes from the comfort of their own home. Some of the current workshops that are offered include family pizza nights, how to make homemade cinnamon rolls, and dinner is served. The instructor also plans on rolling out some holiday-themed classes in December. Next slide. We're also now offering computer programming classes through Silicon Valley for You. Again, virtual classes. There are currently 3 different versions available, including movie making, 3D modeling, and Python or Scratch programming. During each 10-week class, the students are given assignments that they can work on at their own pace from home, and then they virtually meet up with their group one day out of the week to collaborate and receive feedback from their instructor. Next slide. A new challenge we faced this year, and one that I kind of alluded to earlier in the presentation, was discovering that many of our traditional contractors did not want to teach virtually, but were also not ready to conduct face-to-face classes under the current county guidelines. And then along with this, we're continuously trying to find new classes that are not only relevant to the community today, but are also on trend and in demand. Next slide. A little sneak peek at what we hope to roll out to the community later next year, or even as soon as the end of this year. One program would be a mask drive. This would be a city-based program where we are planning to partner with our sewing instructor to receive donated homemade masks. And then with these masks, we plan on hosting this mask drive where community members can drive up and receive free masks for themselves and their families. Another class we're hoping to roll out soon would be a virtual goal setting workshop. This would be a contract class where the instructor teaches participants how to realize, set, and achieve their goals. And then again, another virtual contract class would be astronomy camps and workshops where the instructor leads kids and their families through fun, hands-on, creative experiments and exercises that help teach them about astronomy. Next slide. Any questions or comments?
Morgan, thank you very much for the presentation. It's always exciting, and you guys are continually being innovative and offer new classes due to COVID. So thank you very much for thinking outside of the box during this challenging time. Are there any questions, comments from the commission? Commissioner Vasquez.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I had my hand raised. Commissioner Vasquez, Morgan, just wanted to thank you for this presentation. And just these sound like really great new programs, and just commend the team, because I actually got a bunch of text messages today from the Parks and Rec department and also emails. So it's just nice to see that the advertisement is getting out there. I'm really excited to hear about the mask making. I actually learned how to sew about 7 or 8 years ago from the sewing program through the Parks and Rec department. So that's really exciting. And I've made over 150 masks for friends and family. So I'm really excited to hear about that. And we'll definitely be donating some masks to that effort. So thank you for the presentation.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, Morgan, thank you very much. And again, thank you for everything you're doing out there. We absolutely appreciate it.
Oh, of course. And then I suppose I'll go into my next presentation. So along with special interests, I also oversee our aquatics programming. And in this presentation, we'll go through some of the current programming that we have, the challenges and successes the aquatic program had this year, and then some new ideas we have going into 2021. So for our staff, this past summer, we had about 41 certified lifeguards on staff, as well as 4 lifeguard instructors. Although programs were limited due to COVID, we did staff water fitness programs such as lap swim, water aerobics, and aquaboard. And then towards the end of the summer, our staff had a chance to run 2 full sessions of swim lessons. Next slide. So for certifications and training, prior to COVID, we were able to certify 15 new lifeguards in our February lifeguard course. 6 out of the 15 that were certified applied and received employment through the city of Vacaville. And then prior to starting summer, all of our staff received about 20 hours of training that focused on their in-water and dry land skills, basic program policies, procedures, and then our new COVID guidelines. And then throughout the summer, the lifeguards also attended a 2.5-hour skill-based training every Friday morning from the end of June to the beginning of August. Next slide. So typically now in November, we would have wrapped up all of our summer programs that happen typically at the Graham over the summer. However, due to COVID, many of our traditional programs listed on the screen here were suspended throughout the summer season and through the end of the year. Next slide. So, however, even with COVID restrictions, we were luckily able to offer our water fitness programs. The first program we reopened with this summer under COVID guidelines was lap swim, where we had 45-minute pre-registered sessions that allowed for social distancing and 1 swimmer per lane. Another staple at the Graham, water aerobics, returned towards the end of the summer in September. These classes were led by select instructors who received a 8-hour water fitness instructor training earlier this spring. And then aquaboard, our newest water fitness program, also resumed in September with classes taught every Saturday through the end of November. Next slide. So modified swim lessons also returned in September, where we had a parent in the water with each child and the instructor teaching from deck. We had to get a little creative there. Based on when we were approved to start these new lessons, we were able to run 2 full sessions of weekday and weekend swim lessons. Next slide. As most programs experienced this year, our most outstanding accomplishment was navigating the ever-changing state and county guidelines that allowed us to safely resume a handful of programs. The community greatly appreciated the ability to get back in the water, which showed through their participation. Our participation numbers in lap swim particularly more than doubled in July of this year compared to July of 2019, which was great to see. Next slide. So we also definitely faced some interesting challenges this year. One of the most surprising challenges we encountered was dealing with the unhealthy air quality index that resulted due to wildfires. Each fire throughout Northern California drastically affected the local air quality index, which resulted in us having to suspend programs on 27 individual days. In addition to that, conducting lifeguard certification and review classes are now particularly challenging under COVID guidelines. We were able to modify a lot of our skill sessions to be taught on mannequins and well socially distanced, but the largest challenge is when it comes to participants demonstrating and practicing their in-water skills and then having to bring a quote-unquote victim from their household to show those skills on. Another challenge we faced this year was maintaining proper chemical levels in the pool. This has always been an uphill battle at the Graham, but this year in particular, it seemed increasingly difficult as we had to maintain a higher level of chlorine to help combat COVID. And then finally, competition from local indoor pools reopening as the county opens back up and as more indoor programs come back. We may lose some of the new water fitness members that we gained over the summer, which may put us in a difficult position when it comes to how many fitness programs we can offer in the future. Next slide. So looking forward to 2021, you can expect to see these 3 new and exciting programs coming out. So prior to COVID, we explored partnering with the therapeutic rec department and bringing new aquatic programs to the Grand, specifically for those with disabilities. We've already started to revisit this conversation and hope to have some new aquatic programs out for this population in 2021. A brand new program we're looking at bringing on would be a swim drive, where lap swim participants would be encouraged to donate canned food items at the pool in November for a few days leading up to Thanksgiving. As an incentive to participate, whomever donates the most food at the end of the select few days would receive a one-day free swim pass. We're also looking at expanding our aquaboard programming. Right now we're offering a basic strength and stretch class that kind of hits every aspect of the body. Next year, we're hoping to add workout-specific classes such as yoga and HIIT, which would be a high-intensity interval training workout. And then, of course, we're continuing to work on modifying our existing programs to meet the county guidelines. Next slide. Any questions or comments?
Thank you again, Morgan. Are there any questions or comments from the commission? I see no questions and or comments. Thank you very much, Morgan. We appreciate all you do out there. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, we are now at item number 8 is business from the floor. This is the time to address the commission with issues that are not on the agenda that are within the commission's subject matter jurisdiction. Maximum 3 minutes per speaker. Are there any callers on the line, Madam Secretary?
Sorry, I see no hands, Chair.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 9, business. Director Walker, would you do the honors of introducing A, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman McMahon. Tonight, Recreation Manager Melody Ocampo will be updating the Commission on the Water Fitness Committee. The committee was established in fall of 2019 as an outcome of a community meeting that was held in order to address patron concerns related to the Winter Water Fitness Program schedule. Thank you, Mel.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. All right. Well, you guys have a lot to listening to my voice tonight, so I'm just going to dive right in. As Director Walker mentioned, my first presentation is an update on the Winter Water Fitness Committee. So we're sticking with the aquatics theme. Next slide, please, Tracy. All right, so a little history. As mentioned, this came out of a late summer 2019 decision where the department decided to suspend winter water fitness programs. This was due to low attendance, high operating costs, and subsequently participants that attended ended up being quite upset about the suspension and attended your meetings at Park and Recreation Commission and City Council meetings to share their frustrations over the cancellations. So the department hosted a community meeting on September 18th in 2019, where community members were invited to participate in a committee and explore options to raise the water program participation numbers and the revenue to hopefully cover the expenses so that the programs could continue to run. A committee was formed and the first meeting took place on October 16th. Next slide. The attendance and registration, what you're looking at here show the decline in the attendance and the registration. These graphs, while you might think are kind of the same thing, there is a bit of a difference. Attendance is specifically the amount of people who are showing up each day versus the registration is how many people are purchasing a fitness pass versus kind of a daily pass. And as you can see from the winter of 2014 through 2019, there has been a bit of a decline, a little ups here and there, but overall, the numbers were not looking good. And we had a lot of competition from some of the health clubs and different opportunities, but we were able to work hard to kind of turn that around last winter. And that is just, I would give Morgan a lot of credit for that. Her and her team worked very hard to communicate with folks. And I'll get into that a little bit later. I'm getting ahead of myself. So next slide, Tracy. Some cost savings. Here are the numbers. It is not cheap to run a pool and to run aquatic programs. And as you can see here, we were operating at a loss of anywhere from the high $30,000 to about $50,000. And last year we were able to close that gap and get it just under $30,000, reducing our subsidy to just under 60% versus that high subsidy numbers that you see in previous years. Next slide. Our winter schedule. So in a commitment to kind of meet the needs and the outcry from the community, we did keep a full schedule of winter water fitness programs in 2019 and 2020. And as you can see there, that ranged from 4 to 5 days a week. Some of our evening was the least offered, 2 to 4 days. But noon lap swim is by far our most popular program. That's 7 days a week. And if you compare the upcoming winter schedule, you will see a reduction, not in that popular noon lap swim time, but we have communicated with our program participants and worked with this committee to kind of shorten and just reduce the number of program offerings so that we're really being strategic about when we're offering programs and classes and making sure that those are occurring when people are actually going to come. We had a lot of kind of lifeguards standing around getting paid, and maybe one participant would show up or none in some cases. So one thing to note, and you'll see the little asterisks on some of these, is that the department is currently considering consolidating winter programs into the competition pool. That's our deep pool. And that is to possibly save some costs on heating and maintenance of the shallower pool, the recreation pool. That would eliminate our ability to offer the shallow water aerobics and the aqua board, because those do need shallower water. So that's just something to make note of. It's not a done deal, just something that's under consideration. Next slide. Some outcomes from working with the Winter Water Fitness Committee. Marketing efforts. We increased our marketing, things that we were already doing, but just boosted up: social media, flyers, advertisements on Channel 26. We also added a street banner right there. We kind of thought, wow, why aren't we taking advantage of Alamo and all the high traffic there and put up a banner out on our lawn in front of Three Oaks Community Center? And then we also did a big sign on the I-80 reader board. This impacted our lifeguard recruitment and retention and has brought more awareness to the winter water fitness programs. And we think obviously that had a result that you saw on the graphs before. We also updated our fee structure. So we added expiration dates to our passes, where previously they just never expired and you could have bought one 2-3 years ago. If you hadn't used your punches and you held on to it, you still got to use it. Now they have an expiration date. We also increased the fees of the passes by $10 to $15 per pass. That's for 10 to 30 visits. So that's not just for a single visit. And then we also are changing up and going to a membership structure. That's something that Morgan implemented this past summer, so you don't see that reflected. We don't know the results, but it has come out of COVID and needing to do registration, and we have found that a membership style works a little bit better for these programs. We've also really increased our communication. Again, I give Morgan a lot of credit for this. She's been great about getting out surveys that guide the program schedule and making direct phone calls and emails to participants. And as noted in one of our previous slides, this has resulted in a decreased gap in the cost recovery. Next slide. That is my presentation. I will now take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Melody. Any questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Leonard.
Hi, Melody. Great presentation. Thanks for sharing. I'm wondering if you can go back to the slide, the data slides on the attendance and the finances. Yeah. So am I reading that right? The attendance is showing about 2,500 visits per year. Is that how I'm reading that?
That is for the 4 months. The total of the 4 months that you see there, November through February.
Okay, so it's the total of visits, but it could be the same person coming 10 times, but it's collectively how many different individual visits. Is that correct?
Correct. And it often is the same person. We see a lot of repeat customers.
Got it. Okay. And then can we look at the financials in the next slide? Okay, so this is the same thing. So in this 4-month period, that's for all aquatics programs, correct? In the entire center, every revenue stream, and that's the cost of what it takes to run the entire aquatic center. Is that accurate?
This is specific to aquatics program expenses. So this does not factor in every detail of the maintenance. It does have some, but not all. We have a separate budget account for that. And then it does not account for any other revenue that we receive from our facility rentals.
Are things like
the programs that we run.
Got it. Okay. Are things like utilities included in those expenditures?
We do pay a portion of our utilities out of this, yes.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. That's it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Vasquez?
Hi, good evening, Commissioner Vasquez. This is Commissioner Vasquez. Melody, this was actually bringing up some questions for me just in terms of, I vaguely remember when this was kind of unraveling and happening back in late 2019 with the commission. And I'm wondering, and this, I know this may not necessarily be part of your presentation tonight, and it's not in like the staff recommendations, but when programs are being proposed to cancel or to be canceled, what is the commission's role in that? Is the commission consulted? How is the public consulted? Is there a consultation? So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there because it was something that was coming to mind as I was trying to reflect back on this situation back in 2019. And I also couldn't find anything in agendas or minutes in early 2019, kind of pre-October.
I'm going to defer to Director Walker on that one.
Okay, just really quickly, generally programming is considered day-to-day operations, so staff monitor those. They monitor the budgets throughout the year. They monitor program participation, and so we offer programs. A lot of times working with independent contractors, we like them to offer it a few times before we would determine to cease to offer the program, but generally this is handled through day-to-day operations and staff working with independent contractors, and again, the coordinators paying close attention to their budgets and program participation.
No.
Thank you for that, Director Walker. And Commissioner Thompson. Can you hear us, Commissioner Thompson? Madam Secretary, can you hear us?
I can hear you. The Chair McMahon, I wonder, I can't see.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
I
Yes,
apologize.
okay, loud and clear, Commissioner Thompson. Go ahead, sir.
My apologies. Melody, I had a question about the screen or the slide that's still on the screen, and specifically the expenditures saved by essentially closing or moving to the competition pool as you recommended. Is that a labor cost savings by not having to have as many lifeguards, or is that, I mean, certainly you can't drain the pool or not run pumps or things like that. I'm just trying to get more detail on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So it definitely is what you said, a labor savings in terms of lifeguards and not having to spread out, trying to kind of condense use. It's also a savings in our chemical expenses because we won't have to maintain some of the chlorine levels. We would do a shock about 2 weeks prior to reopening and balance chemicals again if we were to even go that route. And then we would just kind of also save on some of the staffing would be a biggest expense.
Okay, that's what I figured. It's mostly a labor or a manpower expense, not necessarily an operational expense, but it sounds like there is some operational savings by not using as many chemicals.
Yeah, and quite frankly, we don't really know what those numbers are until we do it, because it's hard to separate out and make those estimates.
That makes a lot of sense. Great. Thank you for the clarification, and I apologize for the mic error.
You're all good.
Thank you very much. Any other commissioner comments? Melanie, thank you so much. At this point, I am going to open this up to public comment, being this has been an issue in the past. So, Madam Secretary, are there any public comments or any hands raised for this agenda item?
I see none, Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll close public comment. Melanie, thank you so much for the presentation.
My pleasure.
We are now at agenda item 9B. Director Walker.
Waiting for the slide to come up there. Great. All right. Thank you, Chair McMahon. So this evening, we are on our pit stop number 6, process for facility consideration. And tonight, we have Park Planner Jim Simpson, who will be presenting this item related to all things considered for facility and facility location and how they come about.
And thank you very much. Jim, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We hear you now.
Okay, I'm muted on my phone apparently, but well, thank you to Director Walker for that introduction, and good evening, Commission Chairman McMahon and Commission. Looks like we're just about halfway through the process here. So Tracy, if you could go to the first slide. We're going to be touching on the process for facilities consideration, and this relates back 3 months ago in August when Park Planner Hugh Hesterman presented the parks facilities portion of this in terms of that waste stop. Next slide, Tracy. And again, in the definition that included the community parks, neighborhood parks, special purpose facilities, trails, and open space, those are all, in the broad sense, facilities. And as the first slide illustrates here, facilities are constructed or installed for recreational use by the public or for support of such recreational use. And these can include buildings and other structures such as visitor centers, maintenance shops, campgrounds, picnic grounds, boat docks and ramps, roads, trails, and parking areas. Next slide, please. In Vacaville, in terms of the way we think of facilities for park planning in the Parks and Recreation Department, is special purpose facilities within parks may include multiple sports fields for tournaments, swimming pools, skate parks, structures for programming, dog parks would be another one. And the standalone development includes senior, community, recreational, historical, cultural, arts, and aquatic centers, and then also gymnasiums or TGIF modules, etc. Tracy, next slide. So the special purpose type facilities, again, are usually located within parks. They can be freestanding, but in a park development, special purpose facilities may encompass group picnic areas. So we have a picnic shelter with multiple tables underneath it rather than just an individual picnic area. The children's play areas, diamond and rectangular sports fields, basketball and tennis courts, paved and unpaved walking paths, irrigated plantings, and then other natural features that might be incorporated into the park. Other special purpose use elements, generally these are suitable for program spaces, such as larger events and or tournaments as well. I think Melody was talking about the the water aerobics or water exercise classes, and that's a program that is making use of the special purpose aquatic center. Facilities can be standalone, such as community, senior, after school, arts and performing and cultural centers. So again, Vacaville is following sort of the general definition for the standalone facilities. Next slide, Tracy. So the City of Vacaville facilities that currently exist are the Three Oaks Community Center, John A. McBride Senior Center, the Lattice Community Center, the Vacaville Performing Arts Center, the Georgia Duke Center, the Vacaville Sports Center, or 551 Davis Street, the Walter Graham Aquatic Center, and Peña Adobe, the Mowers Guillen Museum, which is at the Peña Adobe area, and then the Horse Creek Soccer Complex, which is within Centennial Park and is under lease with Vacaville Youth Soccer for their home fields. But that is a four-field special facility within the Parks and Recreation system here in Vacaville. Next slide, Tracy. So, in terms of the title here is determining facilities, and what's considered when you're looking at planning for the facilities. Well, first we have the assessment, and then we have a community engagement and input, and then we have an implementation phase of that. So we have this simplified into these three components. We'll go into a little more detail on the next slide, please. So the assessment is the internal identification. That's a review of what currently exists in the way of facilities. We identify the facilities that are performing adequately, as well as those with known deficiencies. We identify facilities which offer potential for enhancement through renovation, redesign, or expansion. And again, internal identification typically is just the staff, elected and appointed officials. There's no outside user groups or stakeholders at that point. Next slide, please. The second part of the assessment is the community engagement portion. Again, typically you want to conduct a statistically valid survey to identify community needs related to park facilities and programs. That's usually a telephone, a blind telephone type of survey to get that statistically valid results. Where you can also conduct ad hoc surveys and questionnaires across a broad spectrum of the community. Usually these are at the publicized events, craft fairs, concerts, farmers markets, sports league signups, those types of events where you're going to get a broad spectrum of the community attending for a specific event or specific program that's occurring. Next slide, please. And then again, part of the assessment and community engagement portion is now we utilize social media platforms and online surveys, and then we have a focus input through contact with user groups, stakeholders, such as the sports league officials, sports club officials, arts groups, etc., and representatives from the local chamber of commerce or the Merchants Association, and in many cases, major employers within the community are included within that focus input. Next slide, please. Finally, in terms of the community engagement, we also make a concerted effort to find underrepresented groups and gain their input and participation. Most recent example of that was we did because of COVID, it was a Zoom meeting for interested people and users of Trower Park, just looking at possible grant projects and looking for community input. And there was one mom in particular who corralled a lot of the kids that were playing there and got them on the phone to participate in the Zoom meeting. And so it was really interesting to get both the adults and the children users input on that. So again, community engagement typically only includes the user stakeholder group representatives and not elected or appointed officials at that point. that would be part of the internal assessment input. Next slide, please. So we do all the assessments and look at the existing conditions, and then we need to try and identify the need. And in real basic terms, historically, the National Parks and Recreation Association had established recommended standards for facilities based on population. For example, one swimming pool per 32,000 person population, or one baseball field per 4,000 population. And they express these as ratios, 1 to 32,000, 1 to 4,000, etc. But they stopped publishing those standards back in the early 90s, I believe, if not even earlier. And that's because the whole process of identifying what a community needs is changed to become more specific and looking for sustainability as well as implementation probabilities. And so as communities mature and evaluate, they incorporate their own local needs rather than the straight NRPA type ratios. And may still be ratios, just again for ease of communication and data, but those ratios are based on their own actual community needs. I think, again, as an example, I think the NRPA standards had, one youth football field for, every, again, about 35,000 population. And so we have communities, such as Vacaville, that are supposed to be providing, 4 full-size youth football fields. And yet, over the years, there really hasn't been that type of demand typically for that many fields just based on population. And so the ratios don't necessarily lend themselves to be adaptable to the local conditions. Next slide, please. So again, Vacaville's original Parks and Rec master plan probably utilized the NRPA guidelines, where the consultants utilized those guidelines to help establish what the park system and facilities were needed in the city of Vacaville as it was developed. And Vacaville does have a good track record for providing a variety of facilities to meet local needs. We have an indoor gymnasium, we have the indoor basketball, we have the aquatic center, we have multiple community centers, the senior center, arts museum center. So, there are many facilities along with the outdoor skate park, dog park, group picnic areas, those types of typical park improvements. The current Parks and Recreation Master Plan is in process of being updated, and part of that update will be modifying these types of ratios to better reflect the local community and sustainable parks and recreation. Sustainable in the sense of both parks maintenance, but sustainable from a programming standpoint as well. It's become increasingly important that you have spaces that are adaptable, that are multi-use, whether it's a field type use or if it's an indoor program type use. And even, I'd say, as creative as they've gotten with the aquatic center with the board program. But that's all part of the sustainability look. Next slide, please. So when we've done the assessment, done the inventories and collected the data, collected the community engagement, what that leads to is an identification of the facility level of service being provided versus the facility level of service identified as being needed, resulting in the need. So the difference between the existing service and the proposed service level need establishes the need. It's the delta between those that the Parks and Rec master plans try to map out in terms of needing. Next slide, please. So again, we've identified the need, and the next step in the process of considering facilities is what the master plan for future parks includes, and to try and include those facilities to meet the identified needs, and then evaluate existing facilities which may be modified to help bridge that gap of meeting needs as well. Many communities are finding, that they can't continue to build new parks, either because of physical space or the cost and funding it. But they can, through grants and other programs, find funding to redesign, renovate, enhance, remodel, whatever you want to call it, existing facilities so that they can become more efficient and more adaptable to providing identified programming needs. Next slide, please. So again, the factors that are influencing facility consideration, I touched on those briefly already, but this is an example of the Outpatch master plan, just as a reference. But one, you want to look at the size of the park. Literally, can the park accommodate the planned facilities? Two is the configuration of the parcel. Does the shape and the topography of the park accommodate the planned facilities? If there's a lot of steep slopes, again, that would mean that you have some expensive grading if you're trying to put flat, usable field spaces on there. And then the location of the park. Again, is the park located in an area of the city that benefits the most from the planned facilities? Now, in a community the size of Vacaville, that's not quite as critical. Again, we have one existing aquatic center. There's room to probably expand at that aquatic center. So is it really necessary in the future to build another aquatic center somewhere else in town? When you're looking at those types of uses, generally it's accessible via public transportation or private vehicle, and so it's not necessarily a walkable type of facility, and so it's not as critical that it being uniformly dispersed across the city. So that would be affecting the location of the parks. Next slide, please. Again, consideration is in the future park master plan is the budget and the funding. Is there going to be sufficient funding available to implement the facility development that's identified for that park? And if not immediately available, can it be phased? Can a portion of the park be started and implemented and brought online for use of the public while the remainder of the park waits future development? That's what has occurred at Outpatch Park. We did modify the master plan, and we're now moving into the design phase as to what the next portion can be constructed of that master plan. And again, looking at the phasing in terms of how it meets the identified need. Next slide, please. For existing facilities, again, it's the same questions as for a new park, but one that comes into play more often is the return on investment. Or again, does the cost of modifying the existing facility warrant the amount of need that's being fulfilled? I use the aquatic center as an example, but if it were something along the lines of multiple field type of development for tournaments or something, perhaps modifying an existing park to get 2 or 3 or 4 more fields into it to make it more of a tournament venue would be more costly than just designing and developing it as a new standalone park type of facility. So that when you start to look at the existing facilities for meeting the need, that's one of the criteria is the cost versus the benefit. Next slide, please, Tracy. So in summary, you've got a balance or a blend of many factors here. Is it suitable for developable parkland? Is there adequate funding? in the potential for phasing if there isn't available funding for immediate development, and then the cost effectiveness of developed facilities towards meeting the identified needs. Again, all of these factors come into play when you and we, as the staff, are considering development or improvements and enhancements to existing facilities. Next slide. Be available for questions.
Jim, thank you very much for the presentation. Any commissioner comments or questions for Jim Simpson? Great presentation there, Jim. I see no questions from the commission. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We are now at agenda item 9C. Director Walker.
Thank you, Chair McMahon. Last month, Recreation Manager Ocampo reported out on recent community engagement efforts in the Trower Park neighborhood. As the department will be submitting a proposal for Prop 68 funding for improvements to Trower Park. This evening, Melody will be giving an updated overview of that project as well as new information related to Sierra Vista Park and our intent to submit a project proposal for Prop 68 grant funding for that project as well. Melody?
Good evening again, Commissioners. I put a lot of details in the staff report for you on this one, so I'm keeping the presentation nice and brief. Next slide, Tracy. So Proposition 68 was approved in 2018. It allocated $395.3 million from the state of California budget to state parks and recreation to fund new parks and new recreation opportunities to underserved communities across California. Applicants are eligible to receive multiple grants totaling more than $8.5 million per project. Next slide. So the city of Vacaville is considering submitting up to 4 projects. Those are what you see listed here. The underlying projects are spearheaded by Parks and Recreation, and the 2 following slides will focus on some details of these projects. The Rocky Hill Trail is being led by Community Development, and the Brown Street project is being led by the Housing Department. As you will note, the Rocky Hill Trail and Trower Park projects may possibly combine into one project application, depending on grant eligibility and whether or not that just makes the most sense in terms of gaining points and acquiring some grant funding. Next slide. Trower Park. This is the one you all are probably most familiar with. As you know, we have already conducted some community outreach. We've done a community meeting, and we're currently in the stage of researching about that combination with the Rocky Hill Trail. You'll see, for those who maybe aren't familiar, that yellow box there, kind of in the top left, is where Trower Park is located. And then on the right, that yellow line is the Rocky Hill Trail. And then the red dotted line you see there is the possible connection that we're looking into and kind of seeing whether it's wayfinding signage or is there something else that would help us. There's a sidewalk and then it just, kind of a street crossing, obviously, that you see there. And people do go through that street at a fairly, fast pace for a neighborhood street. So is there a way to make that safe and kind of create that bond and connection between these 2 community elements? We also are trying to take a neighborhood-wide approach, the city at large, and you'll see that little note there in brown where it says Brown Street site in the southeast corner of the neighborhood. It was too much to put on the map and bring to the screen because it just, you would have been seeing dots. But there is a site behind the county building off of Brown Street where the housing department is looking to bring a project where they're going to be starting their community engagement and getting feedback. And we're going to be asking community at this November 17th meeting that you see listed up here to kind of look at the neighborhood as a whole, keep in mind some of the feedback that we've got from the Trower Park community meetings and the engagements that we did via surveys and going out into the community. I appreciate those of you who helped with that. And we're going to just ask everyone, okay, considering everything, is this what you want and what you need for your community? So really taking into account all those projects and those different amenities and services that the community needs in the neighborhood. Next slide. So Sierra Vista School Park is another site that we identified. This is outside of the Brown Markham neighborhood. And this came out of a need back in 2016. The community asked us for before and after school. So we have a great partnership with the Sierra Vista Elementary. They wanted our department to bring TGIF there. However, there have just been some classroom sharing challenges. As you can imagine, the school needs their classroom. That's where we're operating TGIF currently and have been for the last 2 years. But they want their space, and rightfully so. So we're looking at maybe, does the community support going after some grant funds to bring in a modular so that we can offer those programs outside of a classroom setting. Also, as you may note from this image, you really don't see any playgrounds. You don't see any picnic benches. You don't see the kind of amenities that you would expect to see in a park. This is a very blank canvas. All that is in there, which is very hard to see. I don't know if Tracy will even be able to identify, kind of on the right side of the park, there are 3 little triangle U-looking things that are the no, that's all right. But there's some backstops. There's 3 small little backstops there. There's a utility box and that brown circle or tan circle, those right there. That's one of the backstops, Tracy, you're just on it. But we speculate that it was maybe an old playground site, but there really is a need in this community to kind of bring some park amenities. So just 2 days later, our department's going to be hosting a community meeting for Sierra Vista School Park. We're already working with the school, and we're going to be doing some canvassing this weekend potentially for both projects. And we'll be working with kind of getting some feedback from the community on November 19th. Next slide. So those are my brief updates. I will take any questions you have.
Melody, thank you very much. Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Vasquez.
Hi, Melody. Thank you so much for your presentation. I actually just saw the Facebook events in my news feed today for both of these meetings. So I'm excited about those and excited to hear what the community has to say. I did notice though on the Sierra Vista one, it said September 30th on the image.
Oh no! Okay, thank you for pointing that out. We'll get that corrected.
So I noticed that, but I'm also wondering if when there are these public meetings being presented by Parks and Rec, if the commission members could get email notifications about them, so that way then we're also, if we want to share it out to our community groups or folks that we know who maybe live in these areas, that we could also share. I'll probably also share on Facebook, especially the Markham one. I already shared to our Markham community since we've got kids that attend Markham. But I'm just wondering if maybe we could get an email notification too of that. That would be great. And I'm also just wondering, I know you and I, Melody, talked about this during the Trower Park sessions, just how we engage with the specific school community in that area that's potentially connected to that park or near that park. How do we engage with, the staff or the administration at that park so they're also aware and know of this? How can we get information to the families that attend that school or do share on Facebook? But just wondering how we can maybe build more collaborative relationships with administration and staffing at school to get, feedback on that, since probably kids in that community are using those parks.
Yeah, absolutely. We can send the email notifications and kind of increase our outreach. As you mentioned, we've talked about that. And so we have reached out. We do have a good working relationship with Sierra Vista. So we are actually staff met with some of the administration there. And I'm not sure, I think maybe even a couple of the teachers or representatives. So to kind of get into the classrooms and get some community outreach coming specifically from students. So we haven't been able to make that connection to Markham, but we'll continue to push.
Thank you. I can definitely continue to push too. I'm sure the principal's pretty busy right now. They've got a lot of construction going on their campus right now too. So, but thank you, Melody.
Absolutely, and everyone's about to open for COVID, so believe me, we get it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Any other commissioner comments for Melody? Melody, thank you very much. Let me open this up for public comment. Madam Secretary, is there anybody on the line?
No, we have no one, Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll close public comment. Melody, thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 10, committee reports. Arts Advisory Committee, Commissioner Vasquez.
Thank you, Chair McMahon. So I attended my first Arts Advisory Committee this past month in October and was really excited to meet the committee over Zoom. It's not always the best format to meet new folks, but well, some of the folks I knew, but that's how it went down. We did Zoom. The agenda was pretty light, but Melody, as she is tonight, was playing a huge role in that committee meeting as well, and provided updates on the mural programs and how that committee may be reviewing that between now and January. And then the committee also approved to have the pinball repainted. I believe that's at Andrews Park, but Melody can probably confirm with me. I forgot, didn't have the location on that. And
You're
then
correct, it's at Andrews Park.
Yeah, at the bottom of the hill. That's what I thought. Okay. And then they also discussed the Jepson Parkway Gateway enhancement and had a pretty thorough discussion about the art that's intended for that gateway, which are some floral looking items. And they made recommendations for that artwork to fit within the median and then the existing trees there. The trees were, I think the artwork, they're trying to fit the artwork within the tree, the height of the trees, because the trees couldn't be changed or moved, right? So they made recommendations for that. And then they also appointed some members to some other standing committees and projects, but it was a nice meeting and looking forward to the next one, which is scheduled for January, but Melody also said she may put a meeting in between before then. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much for the update. We are now at item 11, reports of Park Planner Hugh Hesterman.
Good evening, Chair McMahon and Park and Rec Commissioners. I have a few slides to share with you of some status of current projects. The first one is the Nascimesto Park. And just want to show you a few people enjoying the park there in spite of the fact that it's still fully fenced, but the contractor, I believe, left some openings in the gate, so people were actually in there using it. I suspect that the fencing will come down tomorrow, I believe. And there's a couple more photos. Tracy, would you open those two, please? Just to give you a little perspective. And this is just to show you the sign that we have been installing at all of our playgrounds, giving COVID-19 type of directions so that parents can kind of oversee the kids and make sure that they're not crowding together. Next slide, please, Tracy. This is the status of the Play for All Park as of today. The grading crew, or the paving crew actually, was out there busily completing all the concrete borders and curbs. One of them commented to me that they actually, due to COVID supply issues, they are not able to get concrete when they need it. And because this is a 100% donated labor and materials park, they're not exactly in the position of complaining. So they're kind of having to play whenever the concrete is available. Next slide, please. Just another view or two of the status out there. It's coming along very nicely. What you're looking at here is the main drag, if you will, of the faux village, where kids will be able to ride their tricycles and pedal cars and things around the circle, around the oval. Next slide, please, Tracy. And this is the main entrance coming off of Elmira Road. You can see where that excavator is being loaded off to the right. That's actually the bus parking. It's got an angled room there for several buses, and to the left would be the main entrance into the Play for All portion. And straight on in, you'd be looking, well, the dog park would be off to the right about where those concrete pipes are located, and the ball field's a little bit to the left. Next slide, please, Tracy. This is the location. I know it's not much to look at right now, but it's the location of the Roberts Ranch Dog Park site, which is slated to begin next year. What you would be looking at, you actually see the driveway off of Fry Road here. This is immediately west of the railroad tracks. And off in the distance to the left, you can see houses that are being constructed in the Brighton Landing subdivision. And underneath the towers is the open space and ag buffer. So to the left is where the small dog area will be. Then there'll be a parking lot there for about 10 vehicles. And the large dog area would be just past the well site, if you can imagine, about where Tracy's arrow is there. And this park will also be accessible from inside the subdivision. Next slide, please. This is the pathway that runs along North Orchard Avenue at the Farmstead subdivision. Off to the far right, if you can see the trees that have been preserved for incorporation into the Dreamers Park. Next slide, please. And here's a little bit more of some of the concrete that's been placed very recently. And the large 100-year-old pecan trees are still surviving between the roadway and this new pathway. Next slide, please. One of the commissioners asked about if the east-west bikeway was still in the plan, and I answered that yes, it was. And here's actual physical proof. It's nearly completed construction on the pathway itself, and this is as viewed from North Orchard Avenue, looking east. So if you were to follow this path all the way, you'd hit Eldridge Avenue. Next slide, please. And here's a photo of the Vanden Meadows Park site. And this site is located south of Magnolia Park in the Southtown area. What you're looking at is the main, what would probably be the main entrance into the park, looking kind of in a northwesterly direction. And there's houses behind the photographer off to the left and also to the right. There's a couple more slides that show that. Next slide, please, Tracy. There you can see some of the houses that are under construction already. We will soon have people living in those homes, and I can imagine they will want to know, when is that park going to be built? In this particular park, we've been gifted with some large boulders that I think were probably excavated during the subdivision. So we'll put those to use, I'm sure. Next slide, please. And this view is from Magnolia Park, looking directly east into what will be, well, across the active Vanden Road right now, and the phase 2 of Magnolia Park, which we hope to begin. Well, we actually are in negotiations with the developer right now to see if they will build it as a turnkey project. And as you may recall, a turnkey project basically means the developer takes all the responsibility for building the project, and then when they're done, after receiving credits for the park impact fee credits for that, they basically hand the keys over to the city. Next slide, please. I have a couple more of this shot. So this is Vanden Road, currently active, and straight ahead is Magnolia Park, phase 2. Got a couple more slides here. There's local wildlife currently occupying the park. I whistled at him. Next slide, please. And he turned and took off. Next slide, please. And here you can see, this is looking directly east along the park's southern edge. And you can see the homes basically surrounding what will be phase 2 of Magnolia Park today. And I believe that's the last of my slides. I have a couple other things I want to communicate to the commission. One is that staff recently returned extensive comments on the draft admin park and rec master plan. those comments were so extensive that I think we sort of shocked the consultant a little bit, and I think they thought they were a little closer to being done. So we're working with that consultant to try to figure out what the next steps are. It's that project, unfortunately, is quite a bit behind, and so we're working to try to bring it back into a stage of completion. And also, Jim Simpson asked me to comment on the status of Owl Patch Park. You saw the master plan in his presentation, and he noted that it's currently being reviewed for modification of the conditional use permit, otherwise known as the CUP. And that permit basically is something that verifies what types of uses will be allowed in the park. And then they expect to begin negotiations with the consultant to begin the next design phase of that park. And at this point, I'd be happy to take any questions from anyone.
Hugh, thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any commissioner comments for Hugh Hesterman? Commissioner Leonard.
A great presentation, Hugh. It's exciting to see all these things come into fruition. And it was me who asked about the bike path, so thank you. I'm going to ask you about it. I'm really excited to see that path go from Orchard Avenue out to Eldridge. Is there a plan to take it from Eldridge to Stinson in that empty land that's there and connect it to the existing bike path that goes behind Juniper?
Yes, absolutely there is. We do need to finish negotiations with SID to make that happen because that's along their right of way, but every intent to complete that project.
Okay, thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioner comments for Hugh? Hugh, thank you very much for the presentation, sir.
You're very welcome. Have a good evening.
You too. Item number 12, reports of Recreation Manager Melody Ocampo.
Hello again, everyone. I've just got a few things for you, some updates on programs. First one, oh, where'd it go? There we go. First one up, our virtual Run for a Reason. We are inviting everyone to register, participate, give back, and be entered to win a raffle prize from Fleet Feet and Solano Thunderhawks. So we are doing just this really low cost 5-10K. It's kind of do it on your own. Take a snapshot of yourself and submit it to special events at cityofvacaville.com. And it's just a $5 or $10 entry, and then 50% of the proceeds are going to go to LNU fire victims. So we just thought this was a good opportunity to kind of support our community, both with physical fitness and for those who are still suffering from the LNU Lightning Complex fires. Next slide. We've got our Babysitters Club. This is something that was on hiatus for a little while, and we're just happy to have this back and be able to offer a babysitting class. I think that now more than ever, parents need a little relief from their children, so we want to be able to provide some babysitters who feel confident and are trained in infant and child CPR and kind of learn the skills they need in order to provide a safe environment for babies and young children. Next slide. We're excited to announce that gymnastics is back. This has been a really rough one to kind of work around the COVID guidelines, and staff have worked really hard to ensure that they could offer safe classes. We're doing some things after school childcare, which is focused on gymnastics activities, and then some recreational programs for youth ages 2 to 13, as well as bringing back our girls competitive team for ages 8 and up. That's very exciting. Next up, our Reyes Kempo Karate, Kachi Kempo. This is a fun one. This has been something that the City of Vacaville has offered since the mid-60s. So we're really excited to have this back in person. We've got some outdoor programs happening now that we're still in the red zone, and they can continue a little bit when we're in the purple. Hopefully, we knock on wood, we don't go back there anytime soon, but we're just working on a safe way to bring those up. This instructor has been offering programs virtually and has done a lot of live Facebook events. And so I know they're excited to connect again in person with their students in a safe way. And then lastly, got virtual sign language. So this is just a great opportunity for people to learn how to communicate with our deaf community. So we have this class happening virtually, and it's with an instructor that we've been working with for years. So we're really excited to have this as a program offering right now. That is all I have for tonight.
Melody, thank you very much. Any questions from the commission? Thank you very much, Melody.
My pleasure.
Item number 13, reports of director. Director Walker.
Thank you, Chairman.
I'm sorry, I saw Commissioner Leonard's hand up really quick.
Oh, I apologize. Commissioner Leonard.
I was late on getting it up there, so that's my fault. I was just wondering if we had any idea of the number of participants enrolled in the sign language class. Do you happen to know that? Is that a popular class or just getting started off the ground?
Give me 1 minute and I can look it up.
You can let me know offline. I was just kind of interested
Okay.
in the demand for that. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I missed your hand being raised there. Any other commissioner comments? Okay, I see none. We'll move on to item number 13, reports of director. Director Walker.
Thank you, Chair McMahon. I actually don't have anything to report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are at item number 14, reports of the commission. And we will start at the top with our newest commissioner, Commissioner Bruman. Anything to report this evening, sir?
Nothing to report, but I just want to say hands down what amazing projects that are out there you guys are getting done. And I commend all the people that have been going through this COVID and making things happen. I commend you and continue the good work.
Thank you for that, sir. We're happy to have you with us. Thank you. Commissioner Leonard.
Yeah, I mirror Ralph's sentiment. Great reports, and thank you for the updates. It's really exciting to see all these things coming about. I just wanted to update the group. There continues to be a lot of conversation and discussion around the community with Solano Youth Outdoors, Solano Land Trust, the Teacher Alliance, Vacaville Unified, about connecting kids to the land. And Lagoon Valley is a really area of interest because of all of the resources and accessibility that the city has put into that space, especially with some of the renovations to the groves and things like that. So we're looking to work with schools to integrate curriculum, but really with the mission to get kids outside. And so I will reach out to Director Walker and share that information. There's a lot of great energy in going to getting kids outside. So just wanted to share that out.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Commissioner Lujan.
Hi, just wanted to share the exciting news. Driving by the Play for All Park, looks like they laid cement and really starting to see the vision come together. So it's really exciting to be able to see that driving by. So I recommend going by it and just starting to see the sidewalks and just, yeah, exciting about what's going to happen. And then also like to congratulate Commissioner Vasquez on being awarded Garamendi's Woman of the Year. So congratulations.
Thank you very much for that. Commissioner Thompson.
I have nothing to report, but I am excited to see the progress at all the parks and many of the programming return to the community here in Vacaville. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Vasquez.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Lujan. That was not necessary. I had just a few notes. I went out to Orchard Park. I love the new signage. I'm really happy that it's a lot larger and more permanent feeling than the prior COVID park signage. So those look great. And then I also noticed, I was just in, prepping for the meeting, noticed that on the Facebook events and the City of Vacaville calendar on the website that our Parks and Rec Commission meetings are still listed as 7 p.m. So if someone could fix those, that would be great so the public knows that, that they're at 6 now. Thank you. I hope everyone has a good night.
Thank you, ma'am. You too. Vice Chair Rucker.
Hello. Nothing much to report. I do have to say, me and my family have taken a couple walks over by Nashimesta Park, and it's really cool to see. And I especially love it because it was actually the first park that I was ever able to vote on, and obviously we voted to approve it and moving forward. It was just kind of surreal taking my family, especially my two young daughters, past that park the other day, and just to look at it and realize like that's like all of our work in action, all coming together. So especially this time of year, it's just really, really cool to see just the collective work that all of us are putting towards the city that we love. So the whole Parks and Rec team, just thank you so much for your work for the city. I'm honored to advocate for Parks and Rec in our community.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And I would just again like to thank all the commissioners for everything you do out there, as well as the staff. You guys have done just a great job over the past several months here with COVID, and we absolutely appreciate it. Also, congratulations to the newly elected council members for Vacaville. We as a commission look forward to working with you. With that said, we will adjourn this evening's meeting. Good night, Vacaville.